Right, hi, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now here we have the much anticipated Jaguar from Airfix in 1/48 scale. It arrived yesterday on Sunday. I wasn't going to build it straight away, but I've had a look in the box and it's pretty epic, so I think it deserves to be built immediately. I'm going to go for the Operation Granby, the desert camouflage colour, because in anticipation I bought these a couple of months ago. So we've got RAF Desert Pink. This is extra color acrylic, extra color enamels. So that's what I'm going to use, because it's kind of a weird, strange pinky color, which we'll get to that when I get to painting it, because I've got experience with this paint in real life, and I'll give you my experiences of how epically this paint retains dirt. But anyway, this is a huge box. I've had a look inside. Even for me, I'm finding it a little bit intimidating because it's such an excellent looking kit. So hopefully I can do it justice. I'm sure there's plenty of reviews on the internet at the minute. So I'm basically just going to crack on and get straight on with the build. That's the finish I'm going to go for. It's going to be weathered, maybe not over the top, but it just screams out "weather me, please." So we're going to go with drop tanks either side. I'm not going to go with a centerline tank, although it would look really good. But I want to put a couple of bombs on it. Just for my personal satisfaction. I think it looks pretty good in combat guise, as it were. The transfers are bang on for Airfix as well. I'm not sure of the cartograph or whatever, but the Airfix own brand or home in-house transfers are brilliant. They're the best on the market, I find, at the minute. Much better than Edward or Azure, as we found out with the battle. Instructions, brilliantly laid out, 138 steps, but it's very simple, nothing confusing in here whatsoever. If the fit of the parts is as good as I'm expecting it to be, this is going to be a real pleasure to build. The kit does come with a pilot figure, so that's the Operation Granby colour. So obviously got sort of desert coloured flight suit rather than the green for probably North in Europe. Some people have criticised the figure. I think it looks pretty good actually. With a bit of careful paint, it'll look very nice. We've got two ejector seats, obviously for the mark for A and D, or B and C. I'm doing the C version. So as we go through the kit, I will just be doing the C. I'll let you know as we go. So for now, I'll assemble the parts for the ejector seat. We'll do the ejector seat and we'll see what that looks like. So I'll assemble the parts now. I'll get the cut off the sprue and we'll have a look. But otherwise, this is going to be quite an enjoyable build, I think. Stick with it. All right, I've already started. So I've picked up some. If I pick up some issues on or some things I want to point out on the kit, I'll start the video again and just to show it what I mean. Now I'll show you what I mean by the nose section. So I mean, they're brilliantly molded, fantastically engraved, no issues there. And it's not an issue. This is actually a bonus. So you see here, that's one of the sprue gates there. Now you see it's molded on the mating surface, which is excellent because you're not going to damage any of the molded surface or the external surface, so you don't want any sort of scuff marks or scrape marks. So to deal with that, just a little nip there with me Tamiya nippers, and you see how it's almost gone. Get me scalpel, brand new blade, obviously. It's lovely plastic as well. Just carefully get rid of the little bump there, and it's almost perfect. A little bit of a hump there. And that's perfect. You haven't had to touch the detail surface whatsoever. And if they're all like that, that's really, really good innovation by Airfix. I think Edward have done that in the past, and I think it's brilliant. Another thing, the sprues have these massive numbers on, or letters on, sorry. A, B, C, D, G, whatever. So is the frames. So you're not rooting around for frames trying to find the little G symbol there. It's smack bang there. Again, I think that's an innovation by another company, but I've no problem Airfix picking it up and run with it. Cockpit, I've glued it together. The detail is immense. It's mega. It's excellent. I mean, it's a very, very long time since I've built a 1/48 scale jet. So let me just show you what I'm going to do with that. Now, you get transfers for the controls there. So you've got the instrument panel, which will be fine, and you get the two side consoles, which may be a bit tricky to put on because Airfix have put some excellent raised detail on. So what I'm going to do, like bits like that up there, which the transfer might go on, I'm going to cut it off the transfer sheet, put it on there, put some transfer solution, see if it'll settle down. The much higher raised detail I'll just pick out with a paintbrush, and I think the instrument panel the transfer will go on there as well with some good setting solution. But so far so good. That's a really nice detailed cockpit. So like I say, if I find any more things I'm interested in or I think you should need to know about, I'll give you a shout. Right, I'll just show you a few other things I've noticed while I'm on with the model. It's getting late now, so I thought I'd do one of the bigger bits, which is the main fuselage. Now, I want to point out this is like the undercarriage bay and so the air brake bay. They're really chunky fittings. I mean, you cannot go wrong with these. They fit together like almost like a jigsaw piece, like click into position. So the plastic looks really chunky there. But look at the finesse inside the wheel bay. I mean, it's pretty much, it is exquisite. It is outstanding. I'm almost lost for words with these things. So that's them put together, the two wheel bays, the undercarriage bays, I should say. There's nothing else to do now. You basically just put a bulkhead in and glue them together. But again, another clever touch from Airfix. They've got these slotted sort of slotted slots that slot together like so and give a positive fit. Now if we just look at the bottom of the fuselage, if I just squeeze it together, that seam pretty much melts away if you get it right. Look at that. I mean, how is that for a fit? And you're going to have like your ejector rack or your extra fuel tank on the belly there, so you're not really going to have a problem with the seam there. I mean, that is exquisite. That really is outstanding. So I'm just going to run some thin cement along there, Tamiya thin cement. That's all I've been using today, extra thin cement. That's all you need for this kit. And basically it's just the plate to put on, which needs some holes drilling out, which I've done already. And if it just sort of fits in there, but the fit is pretty good. The instructions say just make sure you get these holes lined up, because otherwise you don't want to get a step on the back plate or the front fuselage. Right, so I'll mess about with that. I'll get some glue on that, and that'll be it for today, I think. But otherwise it looks very nice. I'll have to go and pick up some zinc chromate yellow for the undercarriage bays. But otherwise, I'm really pleased with this kit. I need to shut up, otherwise this video is going to be like 10 hours long. Right, let's see where we're up to with the Jaguar. I've pushed on a little bit, and I have to say this is really something very special from Airfix. This is an outstanding kit so far. No fit issues, perfect, excellent level of detail on the I nearly said vehicle. I'm still thinking of the Stalwart. Oh yeah, one day. The undercarriage bays are really well detailed. They'll paint up very nicely again. The refueling bays, the air brake bays, it's the same thing, I think. The obviously the metallized part of the rear fuselage, which will be painted in probably alclad and stuff like that. But so far so good. A perfect fit, a really game changer, this one for Airfix. This is really brilliant. So the cockpit, I've actually I've busted out the brushes for this. So I've brush painted this. So I'll just show you what I'm up to at the minute. Basically it's black, but I've painted it with a dark grey, these two colours here. So that's anthracite grey from Vallejo and Games Workshop just black. So I've mixed them together to get quite a very dark grey, which I've got there. And then I've done a wash of the Citadel Nuln oil over it as well. So that's why it looks a bit patchy. Obviously when it's get varnished it'll be fine. And a very light dry brush over the whole surface. But if you can, I don't know if you can see, the surface detail in the cockpit on the switches and levers is brilliant. The instrument panel itself. Now a transfer will be fitted. I will be using the transfer for the instrument panel and sort of like the screen there, because it's quite flat, and I'll be able to get that to settle down. But to get transfers to settle down on these surfaces, not a chance. So they're going to be painted. Just basically pick them out with reds and whites, reds and blacks. The ejector seat, again, same effect. So like a very dark grey with a wash on it. Obviously I still need to do a bit more work on the ejector seat to finish it off. There's transfers to go on that as well, and that's where we're up to at the minute. The pilot, I've heard some people criticise the pilot. I think it's actually quite decent for this scale, and he does fit in the seat quite nicely. You do have to push his ejector seat pull handle forward to get him to sit down properly, to actually get him to fit in the seat properly, which you now not want to do. There we go. So it's quite a decent fit, but I'll be using him just to fill the cockpit up. I may at a later date build another one and go to town with some aftermarket stuff, such as a resin injector seat, you know, remove before flight tags, that sort of thing. Really go to town with that. I can see the aftermarket people going bananas with this. You open engine bays, etc., and things like that on it. But so far so good. It's an absolute perler, as you say in the northeast, and I can't wait to get some paint on that. But I'll do some more work on the cockpit, and I can get the nose section put on. I mean, that's a pretty decent fit, and get the nose section on. That's going to be a critical area to get right, and then get the intakes in. The only issue, it doesn't have any like detail on the air intakes, but I don't think you can see them anyway. And there's also a bulkhead that fits inside there, which I forgot to fit in my enthusiasm for putting it together. So always read your instructions and follow and do what you should be doing, because I think I missed out on that. It's not to worry, it's strong enough. I think I have found an error on Airfix's instructions on the undercarriage bay for the front wheel well. It calls it out as 33 or 164. 33 is black, 164 is grey. I think the zinc chromate grey yellow, the same as the main undercarriage bays. And if you look at the instructions, it's got them down as zinc chromate yellow as well. And I have checked some references as well. So I think Airfix have got that wrong, but it's not a major biggie, it's just minor. I think I'm right, I think they're wrong. But who cares? It's going to be not much of an issue. Right, let's move on with the build. I'll do some work on the cockpit, and we'll come back, because I can't really get on with the build any further until I get this put together and installed on the fuselage. Right, okay, we have the cockpit complete and most of the airframe done. I'll just have a quick look at the cockpit, try and get some light on it. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll take a good part. Right, so that's it. Basically, I've used the transfer for the instrument panel, and the rest has been hand painted. The switches, because they're so well moulded, I've just gone in with a paintbrush and just touched them in. But if you look at the ejector seat, you've got some great identification plates on the transfers that go on there. The transfer for the instrument panel is pretty good, because it's reasonably flat, so it'll settle down pretty well. Otherwise, like I say, the rest has been hand painted. They're very dark grey with a Games Workshop wash, a slight dry brush, nothing too heavy. And there we go, that's the cockpit complete. So I'll make the two sides up of the nose, and then we'll get that attached to the fuselage. A few other bits to put on, air intakes, whatnot, and I think we're ready to start priming it. Now, I've just nipped the Hobbycraft this morning to get some paint, and I've went for the Humbrol acrylic 81 matte. That's like the yellow zinc chromate for the wheel wells. So we'll use that. I've just started using these, and I bought a few actually. I'll just show you what I bought. So I bought these from Hobbycraft this morning. So I bought a load of Humbrol stuff, Humbrol paints, and they seem to work quite well. I've used the PRU blue for the Spitfire, the Airfix Spitfire. So I thought, well, we'll try these. We'll give these a go. They seem to be quite good. So I'll see how that spray. Which one is it again? It's that one there. We'll see how that one sprays on the wheel wells once I get the nose on and get it primed. But otherwise, it's building up really nicely. No issues with the kit. Like I say, it's going to be an absolute cracker. Right, we're making great progress with the Jaguar. Pretty much the bulk of it's done, and it's been primed. So this had a coat of primer on. We have a couple of issues to sort out. Absolutely nothing major whatsoever. We have a little step or a little join between the upper and lower wing there. So a little bit filler on there. I'll flatten that off in a minute. That'll be gone. No issues. An issue for me though, hey, you've got to drill the holes for the pylons from inside the wing, but guess who forgot to do this side? So I'm going to have to take some measurements and just get them in that side. So I don't know, I must be rushing this kit, because I've missed a couple of quite simple, straightforward things. Either that, I'm losing my marbles. So I'll sort that, but we have one quite tricky seam, which is this one here. So it's this one along there and down the side there. I don't think it should be there, because it cuts through this panel here. So obviously to put filler on that, because you want to keep that line but get rid of that one. So to put filler on that, it could cause all sorts of issues. So what you need to do is just put some tape, some little yellow tape, that's Tamiya tape, either side of that seam line, and just put your filler in there. Take the tape off, and you've only got a very small bit to clean up, and you're gonna preserve the rest of the detail. They do have a bit of an issue trying to sort this panel out here, but I'll sort that out. We've got a couple of little tiny pinholes there and there, but that's going to take nothing to sort out whatsoever. Otherwise, oh yeah, there's a little bit of issue here as well, but it's absolutely minor. That's probably me not gluing it together correctly, so we'll flatten that off and maybe just do a little bit of rescribing. Won't take much. So we'll get some filler on. I'll tape the other side, get some filler on it, get them cleaned up, get the primer on again just to double check it, give it another and flatten it off again. Then we'll start by doing the zinc chromate undercarriage bays. And as you can see, when I remove the masking tape, you've got a nice clean edge there, and it's much easier to clean up, as you can see by that side. So we really shouldn't have a seam mark there. But there's obviously a line needs putting back in there, a panel line. But otherwise, there's me assuming this shouldn't be a panel line, but maybe it should be. But I think it needs to go. So that's one way of doing it, and it's you don't get glue, or sorry, you don't get filler all over the rest of the model, and I think that works quite well. So we'll get this sanded down. There's a bit to do underneath here, and then we can get on with painting the damn thing. Okay, it's about time we got some paint on this Jaguar. So I'm going to paint the undercarriage bays and the undercarriage doors, the chromate yellow, and like I said at the start, I'm using this from Humbrol Gen 2 acrylic 81 matte. This is what they call out in the instructions. So we're going to go with the yellows, the zinc chromate yellow. I've put a little bit in the airbrush. It looks all right. A bit of water and a bit of airflow improver. So it's about 50% mix water and airflow improver and 50% paint. And it sprays okay. It sprays nicely for an acrylic, but obviously it's going to be a bit thin, I think. Oh, let me just move that a second, see if we can watch what I'm doing, and we'll try and get some paint on it. It might be a bit thin, so I might do several light coats. Just kill the compressor there. So that's how it's going on. I'm going to get several light coats on there, otherwise the compressor's going to be kicking in every 5 minutes. So let's get some paint on and see what it looks like. So it shouldn't take us too long. After a couple of minutes we get that. I'm really impressed by the way this paint sprays. Very smooth. I had to thicken it up a little bit, but obviously with acrylics you've got to be really careful. You've got to get the balance correct. Too thin and it goes runny, too thick and it splatters. But that looks very, very nice. I'm quite happy with that. And I'll just show you some of the undercarriage doors as well. Look, that's gone on really smoothly. Very nice. Very happy with that. Hopefully it'll take a weather. That's no smell with this paint whatsoever, so I can certainly highly recommend that. That's very impressive. Might be my favourite acrylic now. I might get rid of just run down my Vallejo stock and start using this, because it's available at the Hobbycraft. I think it's a couple of quid a bottle. The only issue is you can't put back in the bottle what you don't use, so just be mindful of that. Okay, so that's the chromate yellow on. Now once that's gone down, I've sealed it with a coat of gloss varnish, I should say, just to protect it a little bit, because I'm not 100% sure on how well these paints take a wash. So the first wash I tried was the Tamiya panel line accent colour dark brown. I put it on the front gear doors and tried to move it around with white spirit, which wasn't 100% successful. So you can see it's lifted the paint off there, so I'm going to have to go in and repair that, but it's not too bad. It looks all right, but again it wasn't 100% successful. So the next time I tried on the gear doors was Agrax Earthshade from Citadel Colour, thinned down with a bit of water. It's okay. I'm not 100% happy with it. Again, I am going to do more work on these gear doors. So in the end I went in with a mixture of my own wash, which this is from yesterday, so it's got a bit sludgy now, but it's quite a very light brown oil paint with white spirit, and just let the capillary action do the work, and it's worked out quite well. It's not too heavy, and it's got in the recesses how I want it to be, how I want it to go, and it hasn't lifted the paint. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to paint all the interior bits. As per usual, I always make it hard for myself and always build up as much as I can before I paint. It would have been easy to paint these when they're off, but we'll get in there somehow. So I'm going to paint the hydraulic lines. I think they need to be black, and various other bits and bobs. For the hydraulic lines, I'm going to use a dark grey. Bear with us on that. I'll show you where I'm going to go with that in the end. Because the hydraulic lines, I think, are stainless steel. Looking at some reference pictures. So I'll paint some lines. I'll paint some, so the sort of ECU boxes like black, and just pick some various details up on that. But like I say, I'm using my imagination a bit, not so much reference picture. So if you want to build a 100% accurate undercarriage bay of this particular aircraft, check your references. Don't use mine as gospel. Okay. Right, this is where we're at the minute. So I've done a little bit detailed work in the undercarriage bays. Nothing too over the top. Just had a bit of interest. I might go and do a little bit more as the model gets built up. But now, as you can see, around the edges there, I've painted the desert pink in just with the brush. Let's see if we can get a closer look at that. Because that's going to be my mask line. So I'm going to run the masking tape around there to mask up the wheel well bays and the air brake bays as well. So I'm going to do that now. As you can see on the desk, I've got loads of little individual bits that are primed and ready to go. The drop tanks, which are absolutely perfect. All the electronic countermeasures have been primed. They're all good to go. I've got things on the sprue still, like the flaps and whatnot. They're just going to be easier to paint because they're going to be held in the sprue. And then when I trim them off, I'll just touch in the bare plastic with the correct paint and weather it down. Again, same for the air brakes, and the undercarriage bay doors are going to be left on the sprue. Let's have a quick look at these. Look at this. This is the tail plane. Look how thin that is. I don't know if you can see that. That's so impressive, this kit. That's absolutely like razor thin. Excellent. Right, so I'll get them masked up, and then we eventually going to get some of the extra colour RAF Desert Pink Gulf War colour on it, and I think that's going to be a pretty good match. Right, that's everything prepped and ready to paint. So that's the undercarriage base all masked up. A bit tedious, but it has to be done. All the other parts are primed, ready to go. I'm going to be using my very aggressive cellulose thinners to mix this, because it's not like an enamel paint. So I'll be doing that off camera because I've got the windows open, breathing equipment on, back door open, all sorts, just to get this rid of the fumes. So I'm going to get on with that now, and we'll see what the results are. I'm sure it'll spray lovely. That was really quite nice paint. I haven't used it for many years, but let's see how it goes. Okay, and this is the finished effect, and we have a really nice colour. I think that works really well, that extra colour from Hanance. So that's the paint, thinned with cellulose thinners. I've nearly used a complete tin to do this aircraft bind, but of course all the drop tanks are done as well, and the ancillary bits and bobs. So there we go. It does take a bit longer to dry, this enamel, so I'm going to leave it a little bit longer. It is dry, but I'm obviously want to work it, so I want it quite, to go off solid. But as you can see, you get a nice contrast between the undercarriage bay and the desert pink. So we'll pop that down for a couple more days, and we'll move on to a little mini disaster, which is the undercarriage legs, which is not Airfix's fault, it's my fault. So the instructions are pretty explicit on what you need to do, where the parts go, do not glue, and how they all fit together with the sort of shock absorbers as well, or the dampeners that go with it. The orientation's a little bit bizarre because it is quite strange undercarriage on the Jaguar, but I did arse it up, to put it mildly. So I've had to do a bit of surgery, chopping and cutting to put things correctly where they should be. I think I've just like bashed ahead and just pulled stuff off the sprue without actually double checking where things fit. So this isn't Airfix's fault, this is my fault. So just beware when you build the undercarriage, go steady. It is very nice, very strong, very detailed, but don't act like me and don't be a buffoon and just crack on with it without really paying attention. There is a sink mark in the bottom of this, at the front undercarriage leg, bit of filler and that sorts that out. But otherwise, I'm going to let the main body dry, and I'm going to do the bombs and the missiles and the wheels and the tyres. So we'll crack on with them, and the undercarriage legs will get finished as well, but hopefully I won't arse them up again. Right, another howler. I seem to be determined to drive this kit off a cliff. Cutting the front slat off the sprue. As you can see, I've left half of it behind. So that needs to go on, spin it around a bit. That needs to go back on like so. No, wrong way. Oh my God. So as you can see where I've cut it, see there, so I need to glue that back on there and that one back on there. So I'll get the super glue out and do a repair, but just be careful out there, lads. Now it's been dry for about a week now, so I thought I might get started with the weathering. So first thing I'm going to do is give it a wash of a coat of this Flory Dark Dirt Weathering Wash. It's like a clear liquid that really sits into the recesses very well, and you just wipe it off with a damp or dry cloth, depending on how heavy you want the finish to be. Now, last time I did this on the video, I knocked it over and lost half of it, so I'm going to be a bit more careful this time. I'm only going to show you a few seconds, and I'm going to move everything out of the way and spend a bit of time being very careful. So all you do is just basically cover the whole model with it. I don't want to go too over the top just by chucking it on, because I don't want to get any on the undercarriage wheel wells that I've already done, and I don't want to get any of this on there because it's a matte finish. This is a gloss finish, so it should be easier to take it off and leave it in the recesses. Right, I'm going to shift my phone and get on with that and get that finished. Now, once it's dry, you get that sort of look. It looks very dirty and sort of scruffy. But the idea is to try and wipe the rest of it off like I've done on the nose there. And you see it all sits in the recess panel lines. It's a decent product. It is a bit messy and a bit like you've got to put a bit of force to rub it off the model. But use a little bit of tissue. Just a bit of kitchen towel, a teeny bit of water, just so it's basically just a bit damp. And I'll do it on the tail here, on the horizontal stabilizer. So basically just move it away, get some water on it, and you can move it away, clear it off the panel lines. Don't know if you can see that. Hands probably away, and you see how it sits in the recesses. So it's a decent product. I quite like it. But like say you might have a little bit of an issue, say around here. It's just a little bit too sort of built up, so you might have to go with a cotton bud or something like that and just take it down a bit. Now, as I said before, I had some experience with this paint, the real stuff. In the 1990s, used to mess around with a lot of military stuff and had lots of military surplus stuff, vehicles in particular, and a lot of NATO green paint, and this particular desert paint as well. There was buckets and buckets of it, pretty cheap. And I had a bit of that. I can't remember what it was called. I know it's like this is called like a desert pink, but it was like, I'm sure it was called stone or something. Like unless I'm getting it mixed up with limestone, which was like a Land Rover colour for the old series vehicles, for the white that used to be on it. But yeah, I used to have plenty of that. Now the paint was very, very prone to retaining dirt. So what you'd have to do is, like, if you had like dirt on it, you'd give it a wash, give it a wipe. But then you get like a clean patch, so you'd have like a lighter patch. The only way to get it back to how it should be was to repaint it again. Obviously, then you get a build-up of paint and starts looking thicker and it doesn't look great. So it wasn't the best quality paint. Well, it says something about the British Armed Forces, buy the cheapest. But yeah, it does retain grubby finger marks quite easily, so I'm going to have to try and replicate that somehow without going over the top of the model. I don't really want to kill it. Kill the colour, but I will sort of probably go in, load up an airbrush with this colour, slightly lighten it, and just put some sort of patchwork on it to give it a bit of interest. It's a bit bland and a bit flat at the minute, but I'll take the rest of this wash off it, and then we'll see what it looks like. Let's have a quick update, because I have done some additional work on the Jaguar. I have done right now, so I think I left it with a Flory wash that went on, and I've wiped that off. I went in with a wash of my own, which has probably gone off about now, but it's like a lightish brown oil wash, just to fill in some of the gaps, because if you get some breaks in the panel lines when you're doing the wash, it looks a bit ugh. It looks okay. I'm not 100% happy with it, but it's okay. I'll do a bit more additional work once I get a bit more built. I'm really unhappy with this front end. This front end needs a bit of work. But what I've done after that, I've given it an airbrush with the original, sorry, no, I've actually put a little bit of black in it, in the airbrush, very, very thin, and just sort of gone over, just roughly over where panel lines would be, just to add a bit of detail. I mean, you probably see it more on the drop tanks. It's a bit more obvious on the drop tanks, you know, around the panel lines, and you know where the pylon fits to it, just to give a bit of interest. And then I've gone over with the original colour with a teeny bit of that in, just to lighten it up a bit, just to like hit the centre of the panels. You can probably see it probably best here, just to give it a bit of additional shade, just a bit of interest to break up this rather bland sort of desert colour. Then I've moved on. I have painted the undercarriage legs. They're not fitted at the minute, just basically just to lift the aircraft off the floor. Bear in mind, I've brush painted this. Can you believe it? And I've brush painted it with, as soon as I can find the paint on my desk, just to show you. I've just had it 2 seconds ago. Where the hell's that gone? Right, here we go. This is the paint I've used. It was Humbrol 127 on the instructions, and I've got a very, very old tin of Saturn 127. It's old Humbrol enamel, and all you got to do is thin it down with your white spirit and brush paint it on, and you get a lovely, see if I can get a good look at that. You get a really nice smooth finish on it. So don't be afraid to use old paints, as long as you get the thin mix ratio correct and get really good use out of old paints. Just because people think it's unfashionable, you don't use enamels, do you? Yeah, use enamels. Use what's good for you. Use what you've got. You don't have to buy the all new, all singing, all dancing new paints. You can get really good effects with the old stuff. So the undercarriage, it's not fastened on, as I said. That's the one I had to do a repair on, so I need to fix that little brake there because of my stupidity. Next thing to do, I'm going to mask off the little sort of like the unpainted part from the where the engines. I can't even speak today. You know what I mean, like the phantom sort of clamshell area, and this bit's going to be black as well. So I'm going to paint them as well. Then I'm going to tidy this front end up, which is really bugging me. So basically, I'm going to get those masked up, painted up. Then I'm going to start with the transfers and really try and push this build along. Okay, and as you can see, I've masked that off, and I've just put a semi-gloss black coat on that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a light coat of aluminium, AK Extreme Metal Aluminium. And then I might go in with some sort of darker metal colour. But I just want to see how this goes on. Oh, hang on, I just have to move this out of the way. Let's see if I can demonstrate it. It really sprays very nicely. Oh, a bit hard. I'll knock the pressure down a bit there. I don't want it too high. That's probably better. So we'll see if we can get it airbrushed on there. I just want to get a slight metallic sheen. I don't want to get it too heavy. So we've got a slight metallic sheen on there. And now I think I might do a little bit more on that to darken it down a bit. Let's see what I can find. And we're going to give it some low lights with some ancient Alclad 2 lacquer. This is steel. This is prehistoric, this paint. But it does spray okay. It's a little bit... it's not the best actually. It is very old, does need replacing. Not happy with it. Let's just give it a quick dusting. See if I can get that on a shot. So giving it a quick dusting of that steel, and I think we'll live with that. I'll give it a couple of washes. I might give it some touch up with some like clear blue, very lightly, just to try and give it some burnt. Looks like some heat staining on the metal. But otherwise, we'll live with that for now, and I'll get the masking off. Now, the cavalcade of calamities with the undercarriage continues, and this is purely my fault and nothing to do with Airfix. It's my own stupidity. So the undercarriage legs, which they're just rough, they're not fastened properly, so they're just on loosely there. Just to give you some idea of what they look like. Now, for some reason, I'm obsessed with them being painted Humbrol 127 that I've just previously shown. But when I look at the instructions, to double check, it's 27. It's 27. It's 27. It's 27. It's 27. So God knows where I got 127 from. So I've painted them, weathered them, dry brushed them, and sort of like almost finished. Not completely finished. There's a bit more work to do on them. All the support struts and hydraulics have got to go on yet. You can see I've got quite a nice finish on them. So I've had a look at Humbrol 27 compared to 127. 27 is a little bit darker. It's not the end of the world, so I'm basically just going to live with it. So you know, the wheels and tires are all done and weathered. Basically, I just want to crack on with the build now. So I'm going to get the undercarriage on, get it on its wheels, get on with the transfers. There's a little, I need to do the gun ports, get that ready brick brown colour on it and weather that a bit. Get the transfers on and really push on with this, otherwise this video is going to go on for hours and nobody wants that. Right, let's see what I can get to as soon as, well, let's see how quick I can get this thing finished. Right, we've moved on quite a bit with the build, so I'll just show you where I'm up to. So I've put the transfers on. They went down brilliantly, as I thought they would do, because I think the cartograph, excuse me, no issues whatsoever with them. They are very thin, so they just be very careful when you put them on, because they are, I can't zoom in any closer, they're very thin, but they are perfect. They really are some of the best transfers I've ever used. So what I've done in the meantime, I've obviously put the flaps, the flaps, the ailerons on, the slats are on, the tail planes, the undercarriage doors, along with the undercarriage. Now, I had this major issue of 127. I thought the paint call out was for the undercarriage legs on 127. No, it's actually the sidewinders. So the sidewinders have had a quick coat of 127. So like I said, the undercarriage legs are a little bit lighter than what they would be, but let's just say they've got a coat of dust on. I mean, whatever, they're going to be, I'm going to leave them as they are. So the wheels and tyres have all been done. So they've been on, washed, dry brushed and put on. The front plates on, front undercarriage cover. I'm trying to think what else I've done. So what I've done is basically, when I've seen a little bit too heavy weathering, I've gone in with the airbrush again and just gone over a few little areas and just sort of calmed it down, settled it down a bit, because I don't want to be too over the top regarding weathering. I'm quite happy with the back end being quite dirty, you know, the noisy end of the plane. As you can see, as I showed you how to do pre-shading on the flaps and ailerons, you can see how it gets a nice shaded effect there. I have given the model dry brush as well, so you can probably see like on the bodywork there, or the fuselage I should say. So when the nozzle goes on, we're going to get a nice contrast between the sort of slightly burnt dark bit and a little bit of highlighting on the edge there. I have done a little bit of airbrushing with some sort of clear blue and a little bit of dry brushing with silver. So we're going to live with that on the that sort of heat resistant plate underneath the fuselage. So that's where I'm up the main build. The drop tanks are pretty much done. I just need to put a little black bit on the front of the pylon there on both of them. On the for some reason it has that on the instructions. I'm busy working on the other underwing equipment, the electronic stuff. So that's got a silver band around the back. I've done the masked off and done the black bits on the jammer part, I think it is. I do need to touch them with a brush, because apparently that's a rounded off bit. I've squared it off when I've masked it, but not to worry. So they need finishing and weathering. The cans I've done at the back, the jet nozzles, again, you can see I put a slight blue tinge on that. Can you see that? But that's going to be darkened down slightly with some washes internally, because some nice detail in there, and a dry brush on that. The bombs, these are the retarded bombs. I mean, hopefully you can say that on YouTube without getting a strike. So as you can see, I've painted the rear fin stabilizers and the bombs slightly different greens. Just they are separate bits and get bolted together. A bit of pre-shading there as well. So I've got to put the little fuse, paint that silver, and get the transfer on the nose. And the undercarriage, the canopy has been masked and painted as well. So I'm waiting for them to dry, and I'll bring it all together. Otherwise, we're not far off from being complete. Otherwise, it's a great kit. I'll give me thoughts. The next video you'll see, I'll have it completed. The next section, I should say. There's a few transfers to go on the undercarriage doors. Obviously, a coat of matte varnish is required to flatten this all down and bring it all together. I might put a little, once I've done the matte varnish, I might gloss the metal section up a bit. But otherwise, that's where we are at the minute. So far, so good. Lovely kit. Well done, Airfix. Now then, there we have our finished Jaguar from Airfix, 1/48 scale. Right, let's get the negatives out of the way first. Right, now we've mentioned the negatives, let's move on to the positives. Now, I'll just quickly say the only thing I found an issue, God, not really an issue. I'll just say the sidewinders are just a little teeny bit clunky compared, that's still drying actually, compared to the rest of the kit. but absolutely minor. I mean, in my opinion, they look a bit clunky, but they're probably absolutely spot on. I've never seen a Sidewinder up close, so I'll live with it. It's a beautiful kit, perfectly fitting kit, loads of options. Detail is great. Subject is outstanding. Price is pretty much there or thereabouts, I think, for this. Options are going to be out the door shortly with markings and different variations coming out from Airfix. Oh yeah, sorry, I meant to put the pilot in, but when I tried to like dry fit the pilot, when I built it up, I couldn't get them to fit properly, so I'm afraid the pilot's going to be left out for now. So if you're going to put your pilot in, put them in earlier. But otherwise, I'm just trying to handle it carefully so I can give you a better look. So I've got a very long pitot tube there, long nose, perfectly crystal clear canopy, bombs, undercarriage. You can have the undercarriage doors open a little bit, add a bit more detail. I don't know, I'm probably going to run out of words of how excellent this kit is. This has to be Airfix's best production to date in their entire history. I was intimidated, even me as a reasonably seasoned modeler, when I opened the box, because it's such a big box with so many stages in the instructions, but it's not. It's dead simple. It's broken down very practically and easily. Airfix has done an excellent job on that. If you want to make the earlier version, they have put a jig in so you can cut the nose. Again, it's not a deal breaker. It is honestly, it's pretty close to perfection in plastic from Airfix, this. And you're going to get the two-seater, you're going to get the later versions where you can go the newer sort of, sorry, the newer one, they're now long out of service. The late versions was like a grey, ghost grey colour, or barley grey, I think. So you can go to town on the weather and on them. Obviously, you've still got the wraparound schemes, which I think most of the reviews I've seen on the web have been the desert scheme, which I think is an excellent choice. The transfers are absolutely perfect. I cannot think of anything wrong with this kit. All I can say, if you've bought it, build it. People have been screaming at Airfix to make this kit for a decade or two. Airfix have obliged, produced this beautiful model. Don't buy it and stick it in your stash. Buy it, build it, put it online so Airfix can see that if they build what people ask for, people will build it, actually do what they've been asking to have for ages. You've asked for a Jaguar in 48 scale, you've got one, build it, no excuse. 10 out of 10 from Airfix, perfect in most areas of the build, very nicely detailed. I can't fault it. I can't find an issue with this kit whatsoever. Right, so that's pretty much, I've come to the end of the build. I'll put a load of still pictures up at the end like I usually do, but otherwise we'll have one final look, because it does look outstanding, this colour, and I think the extra colour paint was the best to get the good match. It is a bit thick and it is enamel, so just be careful with it. The varnish I put on wasn't fully matte. I put a slight hint of gloss on it just to give it a bit of life, and I didn't do any chipping like to show the green base paint through the original wraparound camouflage, because I think that would have made it look a bit untidy, and I've tried to keep it reasonably tidy and clean. But you can see, like on the drop tank there, the fuel tank, I have dry brushed it so it gives you like a lighter end to the tank, so it gives you a bit of variation. I did do a heavy dry brush on this with a light sand colour, and I think it's worked quite well. Okay, right, thanks for watching. I'll put some more images up at the end, but like I say, again, I'm going to say it, if you've bought it, build it, show Airfix you appreciate it, and maybe they'll produce a kit that we want next time as well. Thanks for watching.